strange enough is that Namibians many of us are very lazy to to read.
Yeah.
The word is association for localized interest.
Yes.
Which means that Kawandenge has not started a political party yet.
Yeah.
What I have started is an association strictly to campaign for the Windhoek Municipal election in November this year.
Yeah.
So Asoli is by definition now an association, not a political party.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, semantics. It's semantics, really. If you put up your hand to be elected, essentially, but I understand you.
Yes.
So you were until recently the Secretary General of NUDO. Prior to that, you were, of course, with the Namibia Democratic Movement for Change. Prior to that, you were actually the secretary. You were the Secretary General of the DTA Youth League, the modern PDM now. And many years ago, in the late 90s, you came up with a political party called the Namibia Movement for Independent Candidates. If I'm a devotee to the Joseph Kawandenge kind of politics, and I keep following you, and I follow you to this political party, and then you leave me there, then you move to another one, maybe I follow you, then you leave me there. I mean, where must I trace and hold on to Joseph Kawandenge politically going forward?
No, it's a very good question and a very relevant one. But let's go into memory, because sometimes that's why I'm saying that Namibians are suffering from amnesia.
Yeah.
When Kawandenge was moving from this party to that party, it was during the period of 2004, 2006.
Yeah.
But that's 30 years ago, almost. 27 years ago.
Yeah.
Now, my answer to that question will always be that at that time I was 26 years old. How many of our own kids at home that are 26 years old are having the mental capacity to distinguish and make the right decisions in their lives?
Yeah.
So, and how many of us have made mistakes in our youth?
Yeah.
And should these mistakes be the defining factor to the rest of our lives?
Yeah. Yeah.
For Namibians that don't know, Kawandenge followed the late Chief Rirwako in 2003 to when he pulled out Nuto from the DTA. I worked my butts off for the party Nuto. I was the Secretary General of Nuto. Come 2004, in September that year, it's just unfortunate that I have to say this, but my chief betrayed me greatly because I was the second to him and I was about to go to Parliament in 2004. And all of a sudden, there was a story concocted there. I was removed from the SG and somebody else came into my place and went to Parliament in my place. So for a young person, that was really demoralizing. I was not in in my right frame of mind. Even when I was moving here, there, I was really, demoralized. I was through greater depression. I don't think I made those mistakes or those decisions consciously at that time, because I was really hating to see that why will a person that I followed, that I was willing to die for, that I worked for Nuto for 2 years without a salary or anything, and then all of a sudden he did that to me. So from that context, that's where I want Namibians to understand me that those decisions during that time was really not conscious decisions that I made. So, but then I went, right?
Yeah.
I went into music, I went to study, I went into business. 2014, the Nuto members themselves, after the death of Chief Rirwako, the leaders came back to me and asked me to come back to Nuto. And since 2014 up to where I am now, until last year, I was a member of NUDO. I did not go to any political party for 10 years. And here, that's when I'm making this move now again.
Yeah.
So, giving that background, really, and even in this day and age, there are politicians that are moving from one party to the next.
Yeah, yeah. No, look,
You know, so
yeah,
people have to have that background
yeah,
to be able to ask, will you hold someone that made this decision at 26 years old,
yeah,
that have matured with time, that is an old man now, although he's looking young,
yeah,
that is experienced now, will you hold him still responsible for those decisions?
Yeah.
I'm going to start something, and I'm going to persist with it.
yeah.
Whether November comes and whatever happens there, I think I have made up my mind, mature enough now, conscious of my decisions now, that I will remain here where I am. Because if I wanted to go anywhere,
Yeah.
because believe me, to start a political party or an association, it's not easy.
Yeah.
Because there are funds involved, there are hard work involved. If I did not start this consciously, I could have just say, this is too much work. Let me go to LPM or PDM or SWAPO or whatever. But I decided to start this one. So I'm here for the long haul. I'm not going anywhere.
Absolutely.
The article says that if you owe a certain amount, then you have to pay it off. But then while you are paying off, you also have to have water, you have to have electricity, which means that you are also accumulating a cost.
Yeah. Every day, essentially.
Yes, every day. So it doesn't stop. So now, whatever money you are going to pay in, whether you are going to pay in, because if you are accumulating costs for your present expenditure, the use of water, the use of electricity, that does not mean that you have to pay separately for the debt, right? So whatever you are putting in, that's where then the debt has to come off.
Yeah.
So the main issue here is that the debt doesn't seem to reduce.
Yeah.
Right? So your present and current use of water, the charges, they actually remain because part of it has to go and pay debt.
Yeah.
That's the explanation there. So quite a number of people don't seem to understand that. So unless one will then have to say, if I owe the municipality 2,000 now I have to pay 1.5 towards that. While I've paid 1.5 towards what I owe, but my last month's charge is 1,000. So you have to pay that separate.
Yeah.
But my understanding is that people are just going to pay, saying I owe and I have these charges. So that's when the deductions come in now. So when people look at what they are supposed to pay for, then they will be expecting that the amount is going to go down, but the amount is not going to go down because the interest still comes in, and the red for charges comes in, which is about 12%. So the cycle then starts.
Yeah.
So unless one then says, I owe 2.5, but this month I've spent about 700, my charges, then you go and pay 3.2, then you would actually have cleared it. But you don't clear it because you have got two things that you must service, the debt plus the current charge. So people then will have to look at their statements and then they see that still is going up.
Yeah.
It's because of the interest.
Yeah, but I suppose this story, of course, comes from the coast, but essentially this is across the country. In Windhoek, you still are subjected to the same process. Maybe with the exception of towns that do not use debt collectors who add their own interest. Let's look at this issue of Red Force, because it's refusing to die. And Red Force, every time their contract, because the municipalities are under pressure from politicians and the residents, and politicians wanting to appease their electorate, then they say, no, terminate that contract. And every time this matter goes to court, Red Force emerges victorious because of that contractual obligation, because the terms of termination are already in that contract to say, if I'm underperforming, you can terminate. If I do this, you can. But now, sometimes, most of the time, Red Force is actually doing its bit, but of course, it's to the detriment of your common man who owes the money. What should be the approach here? Because once there's no pressure of the likes of Red Force on residents to fulfill their legal obligations to pay for what they have consumed, then they also get relaxed. And then the municipalities' debts spiral out of control. Then we have problems of service delivery. What must be the approach here?
The repayment of debt is not an easy thing. Even if when you go to borrow cash, when someone comes after you, it's like you never asked for that money. So things are tough, yes. And most of the municipalities that have engaged the Red Force, they haven't said that, like you mentioned earlier on, that they did not get their money worth, because they would go in, Red Force would go in and then get the money out. But maybe what makes the common man angry is what we were talking about, that if you are a debt collector and you have got some obligations, you don't have to go and smile with people. You need to bring the money in, because that's exactly where your 12% is. So maybe it's the way the debt collectors then will go and make people pay. But the reason that most municipalities will engage a debt collector like Red Force speaks to the need, because they would have failed themselves. So then they will have to bring in someone whom they think can do the job. So we cannot say people must pay, because things are actually tough. But then there must be an understanding as to an explanation as to, like, when people come and say, but look, I've been paying, but still my amount is not going down. Someone must go in then and explain to them that, look, it is not going down because 1, 2, 3, 4. But if you want it to go down, then this is exactly what you want to do. Because debt by nature, you are actually locked in. Right? So if once you pay off, the debt collector will not be happy that you have paid off. So they need to lock you in so that the money keeps on coming. But I also think that this is a matter between the debt collectors, the municipalities, and the people and the people. Why can't there be an explanation as to how this works? Because I saw on social media someone complaining that he has paid off, but still there's an amount that is needed for him to pay. So in which case the debt collector would have calculated the way they know, but the person who is paying will be saying, I owed 3.5, so I've paid off 3.5, but they don't factor in all the other charges.
Yeah.
So it's a matter where someone has to go out and explain to say, even if you owe this much and you would have paid this much, this is exactly how it works. Yeah, but debt collection is needed. Yeah. Most of the municipalities don't have that.
Yeah.
Because the other way around it, if the municipalities feel that a debt collector who is brought in may make people angry, then they need to have a debt collection department.
Yeah.
Of course, NAMCO's role is to ensure local participation in every single exploration block. NAMCO holds equity and a 10% stake in every active exploration license onshore and offshore. And our key mandate is also to ensure supply for Namibia and just to make sure that Namibia is energy secure. So NAMCO is essentially the national oil company, and we need to just ensure that our mandate aligns with strategic national objectives and national goals, and just to make sure that we have strategic oversight over the whole oil and gas industry.
Okay, very interesting. Earlier in our conversation, you did explain to us about upstream and downstream and midstream. Is NAMCO involved in all of those different parts?
At the moment, NAMCO is only involved in the upstream sector in terms of oil and gas exploration, production and development, and in the downstream space with our service stations that we opened. We currently have 19 active service stations across the country.
Excellent. I've been to some of those service stations, even recently in Swakopmund, and it was a very nice experience.
We're opening another one in Swakopmund on the 20th of this month. And we also operate the National Oil Storage Facility in Walvis Bay. And that is a bulk storage facility that holds diesel, petroleum, and HFSO.
Heavy fuel?
Yes.
Okay.
Heavy sulfur.
How much leeway does that storage facility provide us?
We currently have a storage capacity of 75 million liters.
Okay.
And we have a 7-kilometer pipeline from our jetty to the national storage facility. So there's a tanker jetty that allows the boats to come in to berth, and then we can offload and load some product.
Excellent. Tell us a bit more about that 10% that you mentioned in the active exploration.
So the 10% is free carry, which means that we don't have any financial implications during the exploration phase, which minimizes our risk and our financial risk, because to run an operation of an appraisal well, for example, exploration activity, it runs you anywhere from $1 to $10 million US. It's not a cheap exercise, and essentially it's an expensive gamble because you take seismic data and then you need to see where the hydrocarbons are, and then you need to drill, and then there's levels of complexity to it in terms of your depth. The one well is situated 3,200 meters below the Earth's surface, and then still below that. So it gives you a level of challenges. It becomes quite technical when you need to drill that deep and safely extract everything. Then you have your environmental considerations. So NAMCO keeps 10% in all the blocks so that we have strategic oversight of everything to ensure that everything is done in a profitable way and environmentally friendly way, and to ensure national alignment. But that's free carry. And then the 10% is just something that we hold as the national oil storage, a national oil company. What people also need to understand is that the government still makes a good 70% from the whole industry through royalties, taxes, rental fees, and those get paid by the oil operators, the majors, to the government to be able to operate here. So, I mean, that's why the FID is very important, the final investment decision. The oil companies need to come and see, okay, this well has 3 billion barrels of, this is an example, 3 billion barrels of oil in it. It's going to cost us, say, 100 million barrels to extract. Is it commercially viable? Yes, no. We'll make the final investment decision. Okay, yes, it's commercially viable. We can make a profit here. We will invest. Boom, and then that's how it starts. If it's not commercially viable, they'll move on to the next one and continue exploring.
I see. And you mentioned that the free carry is applicable during exploration. Does that mean that if we get to
the production phase, yes, then NAMCO is liable for a cash call out.
Okay.
Yeah, which means then we have then essentially skin in the game and have invested in the production, so that we're also liable to make profits once this gets sold or produced or refined.
So, but that investment that NAMCO will have to make at that stage, does it get funded from the proceeds of having the 10% earlier on, or does it have to come out of national coffers?
No, it'll come out of our coffers. It will not come out of national coffers.
Okay. Okay, so it kind of pays for itself.
It's supposed to, yes. That is how we entered into these JV agreements, to ensure that we have minimal financial risk while they come and operate and explore on our shores.
I see. And to ensure that our resources benefit our people at the end and
Absolutely.
our government.
Yes.
Okay.
That is why the local content policy is of absolute importance,
Yes.
to make sure that all Namibians benefit from our resources.
Well, all Namibians who are in business, businessmen who are...
Well, all Namibians, because it will trickle down into the economy through education, through healthcare, through everything, because we also need to upgrade certain things within the country. If the oil majors are going to operate here, they'll need, better hospitals, and then it'll all, the economy will be stimulated, and I hope I know it will trickle down into the rest of the economy, into education, health. I'm excited to see what the future holds for Namibia.
I like your optimism. Tell us about recent highlights for NAMCO.
Recent highlights include the Rhino Resources announcement. Right now, I think it's a nice, tight, close race between Rhino Resources and Gulp, and then Total look like they want to finally proceed with the Venus oil field development. It's an exciting time, and it's really just I'm like you said, very optimistic. I keep saying that if everything gets managed correctly, Windhoek can become the next Dubai.
Yeah.
Maybe it can be like the UAE.
About that Rhino Resources development, I saw an announcement from their partners, some overseas company, and I sent some questions to the local office, but they didn't give us any more information to be able to inform locals about. So if you don't mind, what happened? They did some exploration wells, or?
So with the Rhino Resources well, they successfully drilled a 5,000 meter depth, and they got about 38 meters worth of hydrocarbon payout in very favorable conditions, which basically means there is a nice well that might not have too much water, too much gas. It has a lot of oil, and it seems like it's going to be a viable option. It's not too far offshore, which also limits your risk there. Okay. And I think it's just a very exciting time for them, because it seems like they are getting closer to first oil. Wow. Everyone projects first oil to be 2029, 2030. But if we can expedite some of this, Gulp and Rhino Resources could be the first to the party. And then, I mean, obviously, the quicker you can get the oil out, refined, and sell, the quicker you can make your money back.
Is Gulp and Rhino two separate?
Two separate, yes. Gulp Energia is from Portugal. Yeah. They have a license block with NAMCO, us, and Custo. Yeah. NAMCO, Custo, and Gulp. And then Rhino Resources, NAMCO owns 10%, and then I believe it's Azul Energy and Rhino Resources. So they will need to decide then, now that they've done the appraisal well, they need to decide final investment decision, who will be the operator, the oil field operator, the rig operator, and who will extract, and then...
That's now for Rhino.
That's now for
Where's Gulp now?
Gulp is also offshore. Gulp is actually also sitting very pretty, because they have a shallow reservoir, so it's not too deep. Okay. And they have light commercial oil, which means it doesn't require as much refining as heavy crude. So that means you already save some money in terms of the refining process, and you're quicker to get it to a usable product at the end of the day. So Gulp and Rhino Resources currently, it looks like a race.
A race.